Watch the magic pumpkin. Watch. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm coming at you today to continue my Halloween Revisited series, where we're going to be revisiting Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, the red-headed stepchild, bastard child of the Halloween franchise, at least for the longest time, and now has really gotten a lot of love and a cult following from a lot of people in the horror community. But it was not always that way. So, little backstory. I'm sure all you guys know this, but for those of you who may not, this was supposed to always be an anthology series after Halloween 2. Halloween 2 came out in 1981. Carpenter and Deborah Hill were basically like, if we're going to keep this going, we're going to do totally separate stories without Michael Myers. That guy's dead. He burned up. And so Halloween 3 came about. Tommy Lee Wallace saw it as the perfect opportunity for him to direct because he didn't want to do Halloween 2. This was a totally new sandbox to play in, so he stepped on to direct. John Carpenter scored with Alan Howarth. He also wrote the film, and we get this movie. What is this movie? Well, let's get into it. So Halloween 3 follows Dr. Dan Chalice, played by Tom Atkins, the Stash, the man from the 80s. Yes, Tom Atkins. Follows his character, and Ellie Grimbridge, played by Stacey Nelkin, who definitely looks like she's like 25 years younger than Tom, but whatever, we're going for it, all right? Because we're going with it. So, Ellie's dad opens the movie running away from someone or something, and we have no idea what, and he's gripping a mask. Well, we eventually see these dudes in suits roll up after him. We don't know why. We don't know what they want. He presumably kills one of them, gets away, runs to a gas station, and says, they're going to kill us all. He gets transported to a hospital where Dan Chalice is working. Tom Atkins is the man on the job. He's been drinking. Yes. He is flirting with an older nurse. Yes. But that's Tom Atkins. We already know right from this point what we're in for with Dr. Chalice, and we love it. We embrace it. This is who he is. Yes, I could talk about Tom Atkins all day. Probably going to be a majority of this Revisited is talking about Tom Atkins. But more dudes in suits roll up to the hospital. They kill Ellie's dad, and then the dude blows himself up out in a car. And there's no leads. Nobody knows why. Well, Ellie shows up asking questions. She seeks out Dr. Chalice. She wants to know if her dad said anything, if he was acting strange, anything like that. Dr. Chalice tries to lie and then tells her the truth. And Ellie says, I'm going to play detective. Let's go to Santa Mira, where he went to pick up an order of masks for his shop. These Halloween masks that they make there, the Silver Shamrock. And we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to find out what happens. Well, they get to Santa Mira. There's a bunch of dudes in suits everywhere. The guy that runs Silver Shamrock Novelties, Connell Cochran, played by Dan O'Herlihy of also RoboCop fame. And it's weird. They don't know what's going on. Weird things are happening in this town. They feel like they're being followed. They feel like they're being watched. Dr. Chalice, Tom Atkins, he really gets to the bottom of it. He figures out these are androids created by Connell Cochran. They're just another one of the many things he's created throughout his decades in the industry. And he finds out, oh my God, they stole a piece of Stonehenge. And they're using particles from the stone from Stonehenge to put into the pin that goes on the back of the mask with a microchip that when you get the song on Halloween night at 9 p.m., 8 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. When that song plays, obviously it's not going to say 8 days. I'm just giving you guys an example of the tune. It's going to have some weird reaction with the stuff that's in the label, and it's going to cause kids' heads to rot and bugs and spiders and snakes and everything to pour out and kill everyone around them. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. That's the plot. So let's get into it. First, we're going to talk about the good with Halloween 3. And I must say, I'm going to go to bat for myself here. I have always been a fan of this movie. From the very first time I saw it, I remember being younger and my mom told me, you're going to hate that one. The first two are great. The third one has nothing to do with Michael Myers. You're going to hate it. Guess what, Mom? You don't know what you're talking about. Let that be a lesson, parents. You don't know what you're talking about. But I'm a parent. The acting as a whole, whether it's Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, Dan O'Herlihy, I love the acting in this movie, believe it or not. And I've heard people complain about the acting, and I don't get it. Look, a lot of people have said Stacey Nelkin acts kind of wooden in this movie. She seems very inexperienced. Yes, but I just take that as she's young. She doesn't know what she's gotten herself into, and I think she's fine. I think Tom Atkins is great. I mean, I've yet to really see a movie where I thought Tom Atkins did not give a good portrayal. He's just a good actor. I really like him. He was obviously, his peak was the 80s, but Tom Atkins is just fantastic. I love Tom Atkins. And Dan O'Herlihy as Connell Cochran. Dear God, he is a menace to society. I absolutely love his character. I think that he is the best actor in this movie. He gives the best performance, and his plot is so batshit crazy. You needed somebody that could give it a believable sense to it, to that arc and to that plot, and he does magnificent with it. So the acting all around is brilliant. The atmosphere and the mood, it being set in Santa Mira, California, is perfect because obviously that's a fictional town. It takes place actually in a little town in Northern California called Lolita, California, and it is just perfect. It's so isolated. It seems so far off the beaten path. It is just ripe for someone to have this nefarious plot building there. No one knows about this little town. You could probably get away with anything there. I love it. And it's everything that goes with it too. Whether it's, the hobo guy that's like, think they'd hire me? Local boy? Nah, turn me down flat. I mean, there's characters throughout this little town, and there's a sense of foreboding. It's very obviously inspired by Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and you can tell it has a great atmosphere. I love the tone of this movie. I love some of the originality with the kills and the story. I mean, let's just say originality with this movie. It was totally different than what we had gotten in the first two movies, obviously. I think that the advent of making this like androids and like including witchcraft and this plot to kill a bunch of children, it's super dark. It is super dark and it's original. It's something that when you watch it today, maybe you've seen movies that have similar plots now, but at the time, I'm sure a lot of people were like, what the hell am I watching? And that was part of the backlash for the movie. And it's just, I think it's great. I think it works brilliantly. I think there's some good comedy in this movie. I think there's some good unintentional comedy in this movie. Like, where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice? That's a dumb question, Miss Grimbridge. It really just creates this movie that is very easy to get into. There's likable characters, there's cool moments, there's nice character arcs. It's just really easy to get into this movie. I think the pacing of this movie is done really well. It is paced really well. The composition of this movie is just good all around. And that's a testament to the editing, Tommy Lee Wallace, the script. It really does flow nicely. This movie is really, it's when it comes to Halloween movies, in my opinion, like the acts are very, very different. You can distinguish, okay, this is act 1, this is act 2, this is act 3. You know when the act starts, you know when it ends. And that is a well-plotted, well-paced movie. Overall, I don't have a lot bad to say about Halloween 3. But if I have to get into a few negatives, there are a few. One, there's some conveniences and kind of plot holes almost. Like the big giveaway at 9. So it's all Eastern Standard Time, like 9 p.m. everywhere at the same time. Like it is kind of weird. I mean, that's not necessarily a plot hole. It's just they kept hammering that point home, but it's like, but what about the other time zones? So it's just like a minor annoyance to me, I guess. The relationship with Dr. Chalice and his ex-wife, played by Nancy Loomis, Annie Brackett for everyone. I just feel like it wasn't totally necessary because all it does is add another conflict for Tom Atkins' character that isn't really needed. I mean, involving his kids in it doesn't really end up paying off. He tries to call her to tell them, hey, they gotta not turn this shit on and get rid of the masks and stuff, and it's just like whatever, and that is just dropped. So I get the inclusion of it wanting to add that element of, oh, I have kids in danger, but let's be honest, a lot of what Dr. Chalice does in this movie makes you believe he maybe isn't the best dad. He's canceling on his kids multiple times. All he's doing is arguing back and forth with his ex-wife and lying to her. It's just kind of like, you want me to care about your family, but you don't care about your family. So again, I just felt that was kind of unnecessary. I love the moment when Connell Cochran dies, and also hate the effects. It is so cheesy. He just like turns into this stone and it just kind of like disappears. I get it. I get that it is this type of movie, but I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like he should have just like exploded or something. I don't know. Again, guys, I just said I love this movie. These are minor gripes. Like, I don't even know why I'm complaining, but I have to mention some negatives. There's two more that really come to mind. One is the ambiguity of what happened to Ellie Grimbridge. And I understand that we're led to believe that obviously she wasn't an android the whole time, but it's not explicitly told to us. We also don't know if that is an android. Was there a real Ellie Grimbridge? And what we believe is that there was a real one. And obviously when they captured her, they switched it out. Well, then what happened to the real Ellie? Is she dead? Like, we don't really know. And that's fine. But at the same time, it did irk me a little bit because I'm like, well, I kind of would like to know. So it's just a minor complaint. And the final showdown right before the final scene, it goes on too long. Every time I've watched this movie, I felt the same way. Him getting attacked by the android Ellie, I liked that. I really did like that. But the fact that it goes on with these fake out, like, oh, it's not over. Oh, it's not over. It happens 4 or 5 times with different body parts and stuff. And it's just like, oh my God, this is dragging. It didn't need that. The first one and then maybe a second one. But it gets to a point where it is redundant. And it's almost making it very anticlimactic. And then right after that, you're getting to the stop it scene. And it's just kind of like, you feel like we could have gotten there a little bit in a little bit less arduous way. But again, minor gripe because I love this movie. Look, Halloween 3 always, my entire life, has been a movie that I've always enjoyed. I love the camp of it. I love the cheese of it. I love the sci-fi elements of it. I love the acting. I love the setting. I love the antagonist. I love the nihilistic plan. It's just evil. It's awful. It's horrible. And it's beautiful and it's lovely. And I just love every second of it. This movie is by no means a perfect movie. This movie is a product of its time. You watch Halloween 3 and you can definitely tell this was a cheesy 80s B movie. But that is part of the joy of this movie because it's a movie that embraces that. But I feel like there's enough really strong elements in this movie to where it's not totally distracting of like, I'm watching just complete shit. Like, no, it's actually very competently made and put together. So again, I've always been a fan of Halloween 3. Love this movie. Revisiting it, every time I revisit it, it just reaffirms my feelings for it. My feelings on this movie I don't think are ever going to change. They're pretty set in stone. And I'm happy with that. So if I was going to rate Halloween 3 out of 5 stars, I'm going to give Halloween 3 Season of the Witch 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is a very strong recommended film from me. If this is a movie that you guys have not gotten into because it doesn't have Michael Myers, or you just never got around to it, please check this movie out. I really, really like this movie. If you can take it on its own merits and separate it from the Halloween franchise, I think it is an enjoyable 80s sci-fi horror film. So that's going to do it for me today here at the Lost River Drive-In. Thank you guys so much for continuing to enjoy this Halloween Revisited series. I really appreciate it. It's been fun. We're in the home stretch now. We only got a few more to go. Please make sure to like the video, comment down below, and let me know what you think of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.